You have chosen to spend the next 2 hours exploring Dragon Ball Z lore to sleep to, and you have made the perfect choice for drifting into peaceful rest tonight. As you settle in and let the day fade away, we are going to journey through the epic, martial, and cosmic world of Dragon Ball Z, a universe where warriors push beyond their limits, where friendship transcends power, and where the fate of entire galaxies rests on the shoulders of Earth's protectors. This is told gently and calmly to guide you toward sleep. The story of Dragon Ball Z begins with understanding the universe that exists within, a cosmos far more complex and vast than Earth's inhabitants initially realized. The universe was structured with multiple realms and dimensions, each serving specific purposes in the grand design of existence. There was a living world where mortals resided, the afterlife where souls went after death, and various otherworldly dimensions that serve as training grounds or prisons for entities too dangerous for normal reality. This cosmic structure was overseen by divine beings with power and authority far beyond mortal comprehension. At the top of this hierarchy sat the Supreme Kais, divine beings who watched over and guided the development of life throughout the universe. These gods were responsible for creation and nurturing, encouraging civilizations to grow and evolve. Below them in the cosmic structure were the Kais, regional deities who oversaw specific quadrants of the universe. Each Kai managed their section of the cosmos, monitoring the balance between good and evil, while rarely intervening directly in mortal affairs unless absolutely necessary. The concept of ki energy was fundamental to understanding how warriors in this universe access their power. Ki was life energy that existed within all living beings, an invisible force that could be sensed, controlled, and amplified through training and discipline. Warriors who learned to harness their ki could perform feats that seemed impossible by normal physical standards. They could fly by controlling their ki to lift their bodies, fire energy blasts by projecting their ki outward, and enhance their strength and speed by channeling ki through their muscles and reflexes. Training to control ki required dedication and proper instruction. Martial artists spent years or decades learning to sense ki within themselves and others, to move it through their bodies efficiently, and project it externally as attacks or shields. The most skilled ki users could read their opponents by sensing their energy levels and emotional states. They could suppress their ki to hide from detection, or flare it dramatically to intimidate enemies. The mastery of ki separated ordinary fighters from true martial artists capable of defending their worlds against cosmic threats. The Dragon Balls themselves were among the most powerful artifacts in the universe, magical spheres that could grant wishes when gathered together. There were 7 Dragon Balls on Earth, each one orange and marked with red stars numbering from 1 to 7. When all 7 were collected and the summoning phrase spoken, a massive dragon named Shenron would appear from the balls and grant wishes to whoever had gathered them. The wishes had limitations based on a dragon's power, but they could accomplish seemingly miraculous things like resurrecting the dead, restoring destroyed cities, or erasing memories from entire populations. The Dragon Balls were created by Namekians, a peaceful alien race with incredible magical abilities. The Namekians were green-skinned humanoids with antennae and remarkable regenerative capabilities. They required only water to survive, having no need for food in the traditional sense. Namekian society was divided into 2 castes: the warrior class who protected their people and the Dragon Clan, who possessed magical abilities, including the creation of Dragon Balls. The Dragon Clan members could create Dragon Balls by concentrating their magical power into physical forms, with the strength of the dragon summoned being proportional to the creator's power. Planet Namek, the Namekian homeworld, was a beautiful world with green skies and blue grass, 3 suns providing constant daylight. The Namekians who lived there were peaceful and communal, living in small villages and spending their time in meditation and artistic pursuits. However, Planet Namek's history was marked by tragedy. Centuries before the main story, a catastrophic climate shift had killed most of the Namekian population, leaving only a handful of survivors. One of these survivors was a Namekian named Kami, who would eventually travel to Earth and become its guardian deity. Kami arrived on Earth in ancient times, a young Namekian seeking a new home after the devastation of his homeworld. He was taken in by Earth's inhabitants and eventually sought to become the planet's guardian, a divine position that would allow him to watch over and protect Earth's people. However, the position of guardian required a pure heart and Kami discovered he still possessed evil within himself, a darkness that prevented him from achieving the necessary purity. In a desperate act, Kami used an Namekian ability to split himself into two beings, separating his good side from his evil side. The evil that was expelled from Kami became a separate being that would eventually be known as Piccolo, or more specifically, the original Demon King Piccolo. This evil Namekian terrorized Earth for a time before being sealed away by brave martial artists. Decades later, Demon King Piccolo would be freed and would threaten the world again before being defeated by a young warrior named Goku. Before dying, Demon King Piccolo spat out an egg containing his reincarnation, a new Piccolo who would carry on his legacy, but would eventually forge his own path separate from his progenitor's evil intentions. Goku was a name given to an alien infant who arrived on Earth in a space pod, sent from a distant planet as it faced destruction. The child was discovered by an elderly martial artist named Gohan, who lived alone in the mountains. Gohan found the baby crying the remains of his crashed space pod and decided to adopt him, giving him the name Goku. The baby was extremely strong and aggressive initially, his scion nature making him violent and difficult to control. However, a head injury sustained when the infant Goku fell into a ravine changed his personality completely, erasing his aggressive instincts and leaving him gentle and kind-hearted. Gohan raised Goku in isolation in the mountains, teaching the boy about the world and basic survival skills. Tragically, Gohan died when Goku was still young, crushed during one of the boy's transformations into a giant ape during the full moon. Goku did not remember causing his grandfather's death and lived alone in the mountains for years afterward, developing incredible strength and survival skills through his isolated life. He encountered few other humans during this time, his social development being stunted by the lack of interaction. Goku's life changed forever when he met a teenage girl named Bulma, who was searching for Dragon Balls. Bulma was the daughter of the founder of Capsule Corporation, the world's leading technology company. She was intelligent and inventive, having created a device that could detect the energy signature of Dragon Balls and lead her to their locations. Bulma had one Dragon Ball already, inherited from her family, and sought the others to make a wish. When she met Goku, she discovered he possessed a 4-star Dragon Ball that his grandfather had given him as a keepsake. Initially, Goku refused to part with his grandfather's memento, but he agreed to help Bulma search for the other Dragon Balls and travel with her. This decision set Goku on a path that would transform him from an isolated mountain boy into Earth's greatest defender. Their journey introduced Goku to modern civilization for the first time, the boy amazed by technology, cities, and the sheer number of people in the world. His naivety and strength created numerous comedic situations as he adapted to life among humans. During their search for Dragon Balls, Goku and Bulma encountered Master Roshi, an ancient martial arts master who lived on a small island. Master Roshi was known as the Turtle Hermit, having trained under the legendary martial artist Mutato. Despite his perverted personality and lazy demeanor, Master Roshi was one of Earth's strongest fighters and most knowledgeable martial artists. Goku impressed Roshi with his natural abilities and pure heart, leading the old master to accept Goku as a student along with another boy named Krillin, who had come seeking training. The training under Master Roshi was intense and unconventional, focusing on building fundamental strength and discipline before teaching any actual fighting techniques. Roshi made his students perform seemingly mundane tasks like delivering milk, plowing fields, and dodging angry bees, all while wearing heavy turtle shells on their backs. This training built incredible foundational strength and taught the students to find efficiency in their movements. Only after months of this conditioning did Roshi begin teaching them martial arts techniques and the fundamentals of ki control. Goku's progress under Master Roshi's tutelage was remarkable. His scion biology gave him advantages in training that humans could not match, allowing him to grow stronger faster and push his body beyond normal limits. However, Goku's greatest strength was not his scion heritage, but his attitude toward training and fighting. He approached martial arts with pure joy, viewing combat as an opportunity to test himself and grow stronger rather than as violence or domination. This mindset allowed Goku to continue improving throughout his life, always seeking stronger opponents and new challenges. The martial arts tournaments that Goku participated in showcased his growth and introduced him to other powerful fighters. The World Martial Arts Tournament was Earth's premier competitive fighting event, bringing together the world's strongest martial artists to compete for glory and prize money. Goku entered multiple tournaments throughout his youth and adulthood, each time facing increasingly powerful opponents who pushed him to new levels of ability. These tournaments were where Goku met many individuals who would become lifelong friends and rivals. One such individual was Yamcha, a desert bandit who initially opposed Goku but eventually became his ally and friend. Yamcha was a skilled fighter who had trained independently, developing his own style based on wolf-like movements and techniques. Another was Tien Shinhan, a three-eyed martial artist trained in the Crane School, a rival to Master Roshi's Turtle School. Tien was cold and ruthless initially, but Goku's influence helped him discover a more compassionate path. Kaiotsu, Tien's small friend with psychic abilities, completed their group of martial artists who trained and fought together. As Goku matured, he married a woman named Chi-Chi, the daughter of the Ox King, a fierce warrior who was also one of Master Roshi's former students. Chi-Chi had met Goku when they were both children, and she had fallen for the innocent boy who had promised to marry her without understanding what marriage meant. Years later, Chi-Chi held Goku to his promise, and despite his continued naivety about relationships and social conventions, they married and eventually had children together. Chi-Chi was strong-willed and became increasingly focused on providing their children with education and normal lives, often conflicting with Goku's desire for constant training and fighting. Their first son, Gohan, was named after Goku's adoptive grandfather. The boy was born gentle and scholarly, inheriting his mother's intelligence and love of learning rather than his father's passion for fighting. Chi-Chi poured her energy into Gohan's education, determined that her son would become a scholar rather than a fighter. However, circumstances would force Gohan onto a path of combat despite his gentle nature, revealing that he had inherited incredible potential that surpassed even his father's natural abilities when properly motivated. The arrival of the Saiyans on Earth marked the beginning of Dragon Ball Z proper, and revealed truths about Goku's origins that changed everything about how he understood himself. The Saiyans were a warrior race from planet Vegeta, a people who lived for combat and conquest. Saiyans were humanoid but possessed physical capabilities far beyond normal humans. They were born with tails that granted them the ability to transform into giant apes called Oozru when exposed to the light of a full moon. These transformations multiplied their power tenfold, but also caused them to lose rational thought, becoming mindless beasts of destruction. Planet Vegeta had been under control of Frieza, a galactic tyrant who ruled over a vast empire spanning multiple star systems. Frieza employed the Saiyans as his shock troops, sending them to planets that he wanted conquered. The Saiyans would either eliminate the native populations directly or would be sent as infants to weaker worlds where they would grow up and eventually conquer the planet from within. This practice made the Saiyans both feared and valuable to Frieza's empire, their natural combat abilities and ruthless nature making them perfect conquerors. However, Frieza grew to fear the Saiyans despite using them for his own purposes. Ancient legend spoke of a Super Saiyan, a warrior of incredible power, who appeared once every 1,000 years, and whose strength surpassed all others. Frieza worried that the Saiyans might eventually produce this legendary warrior who could threaten his rule. Additionally, the Saiyans were growing stronger and more numerous, and Frieza calculated that they might eventually rebel against his control. To eliminate this potential threat, Frieza decided to destroy planet Vegeta and exterminate the entire Saiyan race in one decisive action. The destruction of planet Vegeta was accomplished through Frieza's overwhelming power. He flew to the planet and generated a massive energy ball that he launched directly into planet Vegeta's core. The explosion destroyed the entire planet, killing virtually all Saiyans instantly as their homeworld was reduced to debris floating in space. Only a handful of Saiyans survived because they happened to be away from the planet during its destruction. Among the survivors were Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, and Goku, who had been sent to Earth as an infant just before the planet's destruction. Goku's father, Bardock, had been a low-level Saiyan warrior who served in Frieza's army. Bardock had begun to suspect Frieza's intentions toward the Saiyan race and had tried to warn others about the coming destruction. However, his warnings were dismissed as paranoia, and Bardock could do nothing to prevent the catastrophe. In his final moments, as planet Vegeta exploded around him, Bardock saw a vision of his son, Goku, growing up on Earth and becoming the legendary Super Saiyan that would eventually defeat Frieza. This vision gave Bardock peace in his final moments, knowing that his son would survive and avenge their race. Goku had been sent to Earth specifically because it was considered a low-level planet whose inhabitants could be easily conquered by a single Saiyan child. The plan was for Goku to grow up on Earth, and when he reached sufficient maturity, his Saiyan instincts would drive him to eliminate humanity and prepare the planet for sale to one of Frieza's clients. However, the head injury that changed Goku's personality as an infant had erased these programmed instincts, leaving him gentle and heroic rather than violent and destructive. This accident of fate saved Earth from conquest and set Goku on the path to becoming its protector rather than its destroyer. The Saiyan warrior Raditz arrived on Earth searching for his younger brother Kakarot, which was Goku's Saiyan birth name. Raditz was shocked to discover that Kakarot, now called Goku, had not conquered Earth as intended, but instead had integrated into human society and become its defender. Raditz revealed the truth about Goku's alien origins, explaining that he was a Saiyan sent to conquer Earth. This revelation was shocking to Goku, who had never known he was not human, or that his arrival on Earth had been part of an invasion plan. Raditz demanded that Goku join him and help conquer other planets, stating that two other Saiyans, Nappa and Vegeta, were traveling toward Earth and would arrive in 1 year. When Goku refused, Raditz kidnapped Gohan, who was only 4 years old at the time, to force Goku's cooperation. This triggered the first major battle of Dragon Ball Z, with Goku teaming up with his former enemy Piccolo to fight Raditz. The fight was difficult because Raditz was significantly stronger than both Goku and Piccolo, his Saiyan heritage and training making him a formidable opponent. During the battle, Gohan displayed remarkable hidden power when his emotions were triggered by seeing his father in danger. The young boy, despite having no training, broke free from Raditz's space pod prison and delivered a devastating headbutt that seriously injured Raditz. This moment revealed that Gohan possessed latent potential far greater than anyone had suspected, power that emerged when he experienced extreme emotional stress. However, the child could not control this power, and it faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving him helpless again. Goku made a tremendous sacrifice to ensure Raditz's defeat. He grabbed his brother from behind, holding him in place despite Raditz's struggles. Goku called for Piccolo to use his most powerful technique, the Special Beam Cannon, which required time to charge but could pierce through anything. Goku held Raditz still even though he knew Piccolo's attack would pierce through both of them, sacrificing his own life to save Earth from the Saiyan threat. The attack pierced through both brothers, mortally wounding them and ensuring Raditz could not escape. As Raditz lay dying, he taunted Piccolo and Goku about the two stronger Saiyans who were already on their way to Earth. Raditz revealed that Nappa and Vegeta were far more powerful than he was, and when they arrived in 1 year, they would destroy Earth and everyone on it. These final words cast a shadow over the victory, as Earth's defenders realized that an even greater threat was approaching. Raditz died, and shortly after, Goku succumbed to his wounds as well, dying heroically to protect his adopted homeworld and his son. However, death in the Dragon Ball universe was not necessarily permanent. Kami, Earth's guardian, arranged for Goku's soul to travel down Snake Way to meet King Kai, a deity who oversaw the northern quadrant of the universe. King Kai lived on a tiny planet at the end of Snake Way, a planet with gravity 10 times stronger than Earth's. Training on King Kai's planet would make Goku exponentially stronger, and King Kai himself could teach techniques that far surpassed anything available on Earth. The journey down Snake Way took months, during which time Goku ran continuously along the serpentine path that connected the living world to King Kai's domain. Meanwhile, on Earth, Piccolo made a surprising decision. He chose to train Gohan personally, recognizing the boy's incredible potential that had manifested during the fight with Raditz. Piccolo's initial motivation was pragmatic, as he calculated that Gohan's power would be necessary to survive the coming Saiyan invasion. However, as Piccolo spent time training the young boy in the wilderness, their relationship evolved into something resembling a father-son bond, with Piccolo developing genuine affection for Gohan despite his cold exterior. The other Z fighters, as Earth's defenders were known, also trained intensely during the year-long wait for the Saiyans' arrival. Yamcha, Krillin, Tien, and Kaiatsu trained together under Kami's direct supervision, pushing themselves to new limits in preparation for the battle to come. They understood that they were likely outmatched by the approaching Scions, but their commitment to protecting Earth drove them to prepare as best they could. The training was grueling, but all of them made significant gains in power through their dedicated efforts. Goku's training with King Kai proved transformative. The intense gravity of King Kai's planet forced Goku's body to adapt, making him dramatically stronger as his muscles and ki control adjusted to functioning under extreme conditions. King Kai taught Goku the Kaioken technique, a powerful multiplication of one's ki that temporarily boosted all physical abilities dramatically. The Kaioken was dangerous because it put tremendous strain on the user's body, but could turn the tide of battle by providing short bursts of superior power. King Kai also taught Goku the Spirit Bomb, a technique that gathered energy from all living things and compressed it into a devastating attack. The Spirit Bomb was based on the principle of borrowing energy rather than using one's own ki. The user would raise their hands and call out to the life energy of everything around them, plants, animals, and people, asking them to share small portions of their energy. This borrowed energy would gather into a massive sphere that could be thrown at an opponent. The Spirit Bomb was only effective against beings with evil in their hearts, as pure-hearted beings could actually touch it without being harmed. This made it the perfect weapon against villains, but useless against good people, a technique that reflected King Kai's philosophy about the proper use of power. When the Scions Nappa and Vegeta finally arrived on Earth, they immediately demonstrated why they were so feared. They landed in a populated city and casually destroyed everything around them, killing thousands without hesitation or remorse. This callous destruction showed the vast gap in mentality between the Scions and Earth's defenders, the warrior race viewing life as meaningless unless it belonged to strong fighters worthy of respect. Nappa and Vegeta planted seeds that grew into creatures called Cybermen, plant-based warriors used by the Scions for training and testing opponents. The Z fighters confronted the Scions in a rocky wasteland, hoping to draw them away from populated areas where the collateral damage would be less catastrophic. The battle was brutal and one-sided despite Earth's warriors having trained for a full year. Yamcha was killed by a Cyberman self-destruct attack, dying instantly when the creature latched onto him and exploded. This death shocked the other fighters and demonstrated the Scions' ruthlessness, as Vegeta had ordered the Cybermen to use lethal tactics immediately rather than holding back. Kaiatsu sacrificed himself attempting to stop Nappa, the larger and more brutal of the two Scions. Kaiatsu used a suicide technique, clinging to Nappa's back and detonating his own ki in a desperate attempt to take the Scion with him. However, Nappa's incredible durability allowed him to survive the explosion with only minor injuries. Kaiatsu's death devastated Tien, who had viewed the small warrior as his closest friend and constant companion. In his grief and rage, Tien used a technique that burned his life energy, temporarily boosting his power but at the cost of damaging his body severely. Piccolo died protecting Gohan from one of Nappa's attacks, throwing himself in front of the young boy and taking the full force an energy blast meant to kill the child. As Piccolo died, he told Gohan that he had become like a son to him, acknowledging the bond that formed between them during their year of training together. Piccolo's death was particularly tragic because he was still linked to Kami, and when Piccolo died, Kami died as well. This meant that Earth's Dragon Balls became inert, removing the possibility of using them to wish back the fallen warriors. Goku finally arrived after completing his training and traveling back along Snake Way. His power level shocked Nappa and even impressed Vegeta, the Scion Prince not expecting a low-level warrior like Kakarot to have achieved such strength. Goku quickly demonstrated his superiority over Nappa, effortlessly dodging and countering the large Scion's attacks. Nappa's continued failures angered Vegeta, who saw his subordinate's weakness as embarrassing. When Nappa was injured and defeated by Goku, Vegeta coldly killed his own teammate, tossing Nappa into the air and destroying him with an energy blast for the crime of losing to a low-class warrior. The battle between Goku and Vegeta was the most intense fight Earth had ever witnessed. Vegeta was stronger than Goku in base form, the Scion Prince's natural talent and royal heritage giving him superior base power. However, Goku used the Kaioken technique to multiply his power and match Vegeta, the two warriors trading devastating blows that shook the landscape around them. Vegeta was forced to use increasingly desperate tactics, including his signature technique, the Gallic Gun, a massive energy wave intended to destroy not just Goku but the entire planet beneath them. Goku countered with his own signature technique, the Kamehameha Wave, channeling all his power, including a Kaioken ×4 multiplication into the attack. The two energy beams collided in midair, creating a struggle of pure power, where each fighter tried to overcome the other's attack. Goku's Kamehameha eventually proved stronger, pushing through Vegeta's Gallic Gun and forcing the Saiyan Prince to dodge. The beam shot harmlessly into space, and Vegeta realized he was outmatched in pure ki attacks. Vegeta resorted to his trump card, creating an artificial moon by generating an energy ball that emitted the special wavelengths necessary to trigger Saiyan transformations. Looking at this artificial moon, Vegeta transformed into an Oozaru, a giant ape whose power multiplied tenfold. The transformation made Vegeta absolutely overwhelming, his already formidable strength becoming monstrous in his ape form. Goku could not compete with this level of power, and despite using Kaioken ×3 and then ×4, he was slowly being crushed by the transformed Vegeta. Goku used the Spirit Bomb as a last resort, calling upon the energy of Earth itself to create the attack. However, Vegeta detected what Goku was doing and interrupted him before the Spirit Bomb could be completed. The partially formed Spirit Bomb was past Krillin, who threw it at Vegeta, but the Saiyan Prince dodged. At the last moment, Gohan, who had been watching from the sidelines, managed to bounce the Spirit Bomb back at Vegeta using his own ki. The attack struck Vegeta directly, severely injuring the Oozaru and forcing him to revert to his normal form. Even in his battered state, Vegeta was incredibly dangerous and began crawling toward his space pod to escape Earth. Gohan, who still had his tail, looked at Vegeta's artificial moon and transformed into an Oozaru himself. The child's Oozaru form fell directly onto Vegeta, crushing the Saiyan Prince beneath its massive weight. This final insult injured Vegeta further and destroyed any remaining energy he had for fighting. Vegeta managed to cut off Gohan's tail using an energy blade, reverting the boy to normal, then dragged himself to his space pod and escaped into space, swearing vengeance against Goku and Earth. Krillin had the opportunity to kill Vegeta as the Saiyan lay helpless, but Goku asked his friend to spare the prince's life. Goku wanted a chance to fight Vegeta again when both were at full strength, viewing the Saiyan as a worthy rival whose existence would motivate Goku to keep training and growing stronger. This mercy confused Vegeta, who could not understand why Goku would spare an enemy who had killed his friends and threatened his planet. The decision would have far-reaching consequences, as Vegeta's survival would later prove essential to Earth's continued existence. The battle's aftermath left the Z fighters in desperate need of a way to revive their fallen comrades. With Earth's Dragon Balls deactivated due to Piccolo and Kami's deaths, they needed an alternative solution. Bulma's father revealed that he had been repairing Raditz' space pod, which still contained a working scouter device that could detect the locations of other planets. Using this technology, the Z fighters learned that Piccolo was actually Namekian and that planet Namek still existed with its own set of Dragon Balls. These Namekian Dragon Balls were even more powerful than Earth's version, capable of granting 3 wishes instead of 1. A plan was formed to travel to planet Namek and use their Dragon Balls to wish back all those who had died fighting the Saiyans. Bulma, Krillin, and Gohan volunteered to make the journey in a spaceship provided by Capsule Corporation. The journey to Namek would take about a month, during which time Vegeta was recovering from his injuries in one of Frieza's medical facilities. Vegeta learned that Frieza had also heard about the Namekian Dragon Balls through communications that had been intercepted, and the tyrant was planning to travel to Namek himself to gather the Dragon Balls and wish for immortality. The Namek arc of Dragon Ball Z introduced cosmic-level threats that dwarfed the Saiyan invasion in scope and danger. Frieza was revealed to be the emperor of a vast galactic empire, controlling countless worlds through fear and overwhelming power. His organization included elite soldiers known as the Ginyu Force, 5 warriors with unique abilities who served as Frieza's personal strike team. Frieza himself had never needed to show his true power, as his first 4 alone was sufficient to intimidate or destroy any opposition he had encountered in his conquest of the universe. When the Z-Fighters arrived on Namek, They discovered that Frieza's forces were already there, attacking Namekian villages and stealing their Dragon Balls. The Namekians were peaceful and could not defend themselves effectively against Frieza's soldiers, many villages being massacred for their Dragon Balls. Gohan and Krillin witnessed some of these atrocities and intervened where they could, saving Namekian survivors and hiding them from Frieza's search parties. They also encountered a young Namekian named Dend, who would later become important to Earth's survival. Vegeta had also arrived on Namek, having betrayed Frieza, and decided to gather the Dragon Balls for himself. Vegeta's plan was to wish for immortality, which would make him invincible and allow him to eventually defeat Frieza and rule the universe himself. However, Vegeta was still weaker than Frieza, and had to use stealth and cunning to steal Dragon Balls from both Frieza's forces and from Earth's defenders. This created a complex three-way conflict where Vegeta, Frieza, and the Z Fighters were all competing for the same 7 Dragon Balls scattered across planet Namek. The situation escalated when Frieza called the Ginyu Force to Namek, wanting their help to deal with the increasing resistance he was facing. The Ginyu Force arrived and immediately demonstrated why they were feared throughout the galaxy. Their leader, Captain Ginyu, had the ability to swap bodies with opponents, stealing their physical form and power. Rikum possessed incredible durability and strength that overwhelmed even significantly powered-up opponents. Burter claimed to be the fastest being in the universe, moving at speeds that seemed like teleportation. Geese could create devastating energy attacks and served as second-in-command. Guldo, despite being physically weak, had time-freezing and telekinetic abilities that made him extremely dangerous. Goku, who had been recovering from his injuries on Earth, finally arrived on Namek after spending his journey in enhanced gravity training aboard his spaceship. This training had increased his power exponentially, and when Goku confronted the Ginyu Force, he effortlessly defeated them despite their reputations as elite warriors. Goku's demonstration of power shocked everyone present, including Vegeta, who realized that the low-class warrior had somehow surpassed the Saiyan Prince in strength through sheer dedication to training. Captain Ginyu, seeing that Goku was far stronger than himself, used his body swap technique to steal Goku's body. However, Ginyu could not access Goku's full power because he did not know how to properly control Ki or push the body to its limits. The body swap also left Goku trapped in Jinyu's injured body, nearly helpless and unable to fight. Through clever tactics and the help of Gohan and Krillin, they managed to trick Ginyu into swapping bodies again, returning Goku to his original body and leaving Ginyu trapped in the body of Frog that jumped in front of the body swap beam at the crucial moment. With the Ginyu Force defeated, the only remaining obstacle was Frieza himself. The tyrant had been growing increasingly frustrated with the delays in gathering the Dragon Balls and with the resistance he was facing on what should have been a simple retrieval mission. Frieza's cruelty was on full display as he massacred Namekian villagers personally, torturing the elder Namekians to force them to reveal the locations of Dragon Balls. The peaceful Namekians were helpless against Frieza's overwhelming power and sadistic nature. The situation became critical when Frieza successfully gathered all 7 Namekian Dragon Balls. However, he discovered that the summoning phrase needed to activate them had to be spoken in the Namekian language, which he did not know. This linguistic barrier prevented Frieza from making his wish for immortality despite having all 7 Dragon Balls in his possession. This small mercy bought Earth's defenders precious time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the tyrant. Dend, the young Namekian who had been helped by Gohan and Krillin, knew the summoning phrase and used it to call forth Porunga, the Namekian dragon. Porunga was far more powerful than Earth's Shenron, capable of granting 3 wishes instead of 1, and able to resurrect multiple people with a single wish. The first wish was used to resurrect Piccolo, which also restored Kami to life and reactivated Earth's Dragon Balls. The second wish transported Piccolo to Namek, so he could help fight Frieza. The third wish was intended to transport everyone except Frieza and Goku back to Earth, but the wish was interrupted by Frieza destroying Porunga before it could be completed. Enraged by the theft of his immortality wish, Frieza lashed out at the Namekians and the Z Fighters with murderous intent. He killed numerous Namekians and severely injured many of Earth's defenders. Vegeta, who had been forcing Den to heal him repeatedly to exploit the Scion ability to grow stronger after near-death experiences, challenged Frieza directly. Vegeta believed his power increases had finally made him strong enough to achieve the legend of Super Saiyan and defeat Frieza. However, Frieza revealed that his first form, which had been dominating everyone on Namek, was not even close to his full power. Frieza had the ability to transform, and each transformation dramatically multiplied his strength. Frieza transformed into his second form, becoming taller and more muscular with horns growing from his head. This transformation boosted his power so dramatically that Vegeta's confidence shattered instantly, the Saiyan Prince realizing he stood no chance against this level of power. Frieza continued transforming, revealing a third form that was even more alien and monstrous in appearance. Each transformation made Frieza stronger while also allowing him to better control his immense power, as his first form had been designed to restrain his strength rather than showcase it. The displays of power in these transformed states were terrifying, Frieza destroying landscapes with casual gestures and moving at speeds that made him nearly impossible to track with the naked eye. Piccolo arrived on Namek after being wished there, and fused with a Namekian named Nail, combining their strengths and memories to become significantly more powerful. This fusion allowed Piccolo to briefly fight Frieza on more equal terms, demonstrating that the Namekian fusion technique could create warriors of tremendous power. However, even a fused Piccolo was ultimately overwhelmed when Frieza transformed into his final form, a deceptively simple appearance that contained all of Frieza's true power compressed into an efficient and deadly package. Frieza's final form was smaller and sleeker than his previous transformations, appearing almost identical to his first form, but with a white and purple color scheme instead of purple and pink. This final form contained Frieza's complete power, and he could regulate how much of that power he used at any given time. Even using a fraction of his strength, Frieza was overwhelming every fighter on Namek simultaneously. He tortured his opponents rather than killing them quickly, enjoying the suffering he inflicted and savoring his absolute dominance over everyone present. Vegeta, broken and dying from Frieza's assault, had a final conversation with Goku where the proud prince broke down emotionally. Vegeta revealed the tragic history of the Saiyan race, how they had been slaves to Frieza, and how the tyrant had destroyed their homeworld. Vegeta begged Goku to avenge the Saiyan race, to defeat Frieza and restore some honor to their people. With his dying breath, Vegeta acknowledged that Goku might be the legendary Super Saiyan that could finally challenge Frieza's tyranny. These final words moved Goku deeply, creating a bond between the two Saiyans despite their previous enmity. Goku fought Frieza at full power, using Kaioken times 20 to boost his strength to unprecedented levels. The battle between them was spectacular, energy blasts carving through mountains and shockwaves shaking the entire planet. However, even at Kaioken times 20, Goku was only matching Frieza, who was still holding back significant portions of his full strength. Frieza toyed with Goku, making it clear that the Saiyan was still inferior despite all his training and techniques. The fight's momentum shifted dramatically when Frieza murdered Krillin in front of Goku, using his psychic powers to levitate Krillin into the air and then causing his body to explode from the inside out. The casual cruelty of killing Goku's best friend, combined with all the other deaths and suffering Frieza had caused, finally pushed Goku beyond his emotional breaking point. The rage and anguish triggered a transformation that had been building throughout the entire fight, finally awakening the legendary Super Saiyan form that had not appeared for over 1,000 years. The Super Saiyan transformation changed everything about Goku's appearance and power. His black hair turned golden and stood up in spiky defiance of gravity. His eyes shifted from black to turquoise. A golden aura of ki surrounded his entire body, crackling with energy and power. Most importantly, the transformation multiplied his power by 50 times, instantly making him far stronger than Frieza even at the tyrant's maximum power. The transformation was fueled by pure emotion, specifically the combination of righteous anger and deep sadness that Goku felt over Krillin's death and Vegeta's final words. The battle between Super Saiyan Goku and Frieza at full power was the most intense combat yet witnessed in the universe. Frieza used 100% of his strength, muscles bulging with power as he pushed himself to absolute limits. However, even at maximum power, Frieza could not match the Super Saiyan. the legendary warrior whose power had been feared by the tyrant for so long. Goku dominated the fight, his attacks damaging Frieza, while he easily dodged or blocked the tyrant's desperate counterattacks. Frieza's cruelty and inability to accept defeat led to his downfall. He attacked Goku with an attack meant to destroy planet Namek's core, initiating a chain reaction that would cause the entire planet to explode in 5 minutes. Frieza believed that even if Goku was stronger, the Saiyan would die when the planet exploded since Saiyans could not survive in the vacuum of space. This suicidal tactic showed Frieza's desperation and his willingness to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. The planet began tearing itself apart, landscapes crumbling and oceans boiling as Namek's destruction countdown began. The fight continued even as the planet disintegrated around them. Frieza tried to escape in Goku's spaceship after being defeated, but Goku destroyed the ship, eliminating Frieza's escape route. When Frieza pretended to surrender and then attacked Goku from behind with an energy blast, Goku responded by using Frieza's own attack against him, cutting the tyrant in half with an energy disc that Frieza had created. Even bisected and defeated, Frieza begged for mercy, and Goku, unable to kill even someone as evil as Frieza, gave him enough energy to survive. Frieza used this gift of energy to attack Goku one final time, completely ungrateful and incapable of change despite his defeat. Goku responded with an energy blast that seemingly killed Frieza, leaving the tyrant to die on the exploding planet. Goku searched desperately for a working spaceship to escape, finding one of the Ginyu Force's pods just as Namek exploded. However, something went wrong with the escape, and Goku's fate was left uncertain as Namek was destroyed completely, its debris scattering across space. Earth's Dragon Balls were used to wish back everyone killed by Frieza and his forces, which included most of the Namekians. However, Goku could not be wished back because he was not actually dead. The Namekians established a new home on Earth temporarily, while waiting for Porunga to be restored, so they could wish for a new planet to live on. During this period, everyone mourned Goku's apparent death on Namek, believing the Saiyan had sacrificed himself to save a universe from Frieza's tyranny. However, Goku had survived Namek's explosion and had escaped in a Ginyu Force spaceship that was badly damaged. He crash-landed on planet Yardrat, a world inhabited by peaceful aliens with unique abilities. The Yardrats rescued Goku and healed his injuries, then taught him their techniques during his recovery period. The most valuable technique Goku learned was instant transmission, the ability to teleport instantly to any location he could sense key energy from. This technique required placing 2 fingers to the forehead and focusing on the target's key signature, then dematerializing and rematerializing at that location instantly. Goku spent over a year on planet Yardrat, training and learning their techniques before finally returning to Earth. His arrival was timely, as new threats had emerged during his absence. Future Trunks, a young man from an alternate timeline, had appeared with warnings about artificial humans called androids who would attack Earth in 3 years. These androids were created by Dr. Gero, a scientist who had once worked for the Red Ribbon Army, a criminal organization that Goku had destroyed when he was young. Dr. Gero sought revenge for the destruction of his organization and had spent decades creating the ultimate weapons specifically designed to kill Goku. The concept of alternate timelines was complex but important to understanding the android and Cell sagas. When Future Trunks traveled back in time using a time machine built by his mother, he created an alternate timeline separate from his own. Events that occurred in the main timeline would not affect his original timeline, meaning saving the main timeline's Earth would not save his own future. However, Trunks made the journey anyway, hoping to prevent the suffering his own timeline had experienced, even if it meant only saving alternate versions of the people he loved. In Trunks' original timeline, the androids had appeared and killed all of Earth's defenders except for Gohan, who survived and trained Trunks. Years later, Gohan was also killed by the androids, leaving Trunks as Earth's sole defender in a world where the androids killed humans for sport. Bulma, Trunks' mother, had created the time machine to give her son a chance to change the past and prevent this nightmare future. Trunks used the machine to travel 20 years into the past, arriving shortly after Goku returned from planet Yardrat. Future Trunks demonstrated the Super Saiyan transformation to Goku and Vegeta, shocking everyone by revealing that the legendary transformation could be learned and mastered rather than being a once-in-a-millennium occurrence. Trunks explained that in his timeline, Goku had died from a heart virus before the androids appeared, leaving the Z-Fighters without their strongest warrior. The androids had then systematically killed Vegeta, Piccolo, and all the others, with only Gohan surviving to train Trunks years later. Trunks gave Goku medicine that would cure the heart virus, hoping to prevent his death and change the timeline's outcome. The 3 years before the androids' arrival were spent training intensely. Goku trained with Gohan and Piccolo, teaching them how to transform into Super Saiyans through intense emotional triggers combined with proper ki control. Vegeta trained obsessively in isolation, determined to achieve the Super Saiyan transformation himself and prove he was superior to Goku. The prince's motivation came from wounded pride, unable to accept that Goku, a low-class warrior, had achieved a legendary form while he, the Saiyan Prince, had not. Vegeta eventually achieved Super Saiyan through rage and frustration, his pride and anger at being surpassed finally triggering the transformation. Once achieved, Vegeta trained constantly in the Super Saiyan state, working to master it and make it stronger. His dedication was absolute, training far longer and harder than anyone else in his obsessive quest to be the strongest. This period showed a different side of Vegeta, his warrior pride driving him to self-improvement rather than conquest. When the androids finally arrived, they were not what the Z-Fighters expected. Dr. Gero appeared first as Android 20, having converted himself into an android to achieve immortality and continue his revenge quest. He was accompanied by Android 19, a large and rotund android with immense strength. These two androids attacked the Z-Fighters, but were defeated relatively easily, with Vegeta in particular displaying overwhelming power in his Super Saiyan form. However, Dr. Gero escaped to his laboratory to activate stronger androids that he had kept sealed away. Android 17 and 18 were the true threats that future Trunks had warned about. These were not the mechanical type of androids like Dr. Gero and Android 19, but rather humans who had been modified with cybernetic enhancements while retaining their human bases. This made them nearly impossible to detect by sensing ki, as their energy signatures were mechanical rather than biological. Android 17 was a young man with long black hair and a rebellious attitude, while Android 18 was his twin sister, blonde and cold in demeanor. When Dr. Gero activated Android 17 and 18, they immediately demonstrated their independence by killing their creator. Dr. Gero had programmed them to obey his commands, but the androids had retained enough humanity to resent being controlled. They killed Dr. Gero without hesitation, then released Android 16, an entirely mechanical android that Gero had locked away because he believed it was too dangerous. Android 16 was massive and powerful, with bright orange hair and a surprisingly gentle personality, despite being designed purely for combat. The androids were not interested in killing humans randomly or causing destruction like they did in future Trunks' timeline. They seemed more interested in finding Goku to fulfill their programming directive to kill him, but they approached this mission casually, taking their time and enjoying themselves rather than rushing to complete their objective. This difference from future Trunks' timeline confused everyone, suggesting that timeline changes had already affected the android behavior and personalities. Piccolo realized that the Z-Fighters needed more power to defeat the androids and proposed a radical solution. He suggested fusing with Kami permanently, combining their separate beings back into one complete Namekian. This fusion would make Piccolo exponentially stronger, but it would also eliminate Earth's Guardian and deactivate the Dragon Balls permanently. After much consideration, Kami agreed, recognizing that Earth needed a strong defender more than it needed wish-granting orbs. The fusion transformed Piccolo into a warrior capable of fighting Android 17 and 18 on relatively equal terms. However, an even greater threat emerged from the shadows. Cell, a biological android created from the cells of all Earth's greatest fighters, appeared and began terrorizing the population. Cell was Dr. Gero's ultimate creation, designed to absorb Android 17 and 18 to achieve his perfect form. Cell had been created using a computer that collected cells from every powerful fighter on Earth over many years, incorporating Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Frieza, and others into a genetic makeup. This gave Cell access to all their techniques and abilities, making him an incredibly versatile and dangerous opponent. Cell had traveled back in time from an even darker future than Trunks' timeline, arriving in the past using Trunks' time machine after killing an alternate version of Trunks in his timeline. Cell's time travel created yet another alternate timeline, further complicating the series of connected but separate timelines. In Cell's original timeline, he had been incomplete and weak, unable to find the androids to absorb them. By traveling to the past, Cell hoped to find and absorb the androids while they were still available, achieving his perfect form and ultimate power. Cell absorbed humans to increase his power while searching for Android 17 and 18. His tail could extend and stab into victims, draining them completely and adding their energy to his own. Entire cities were depopulated as Cell absorbed thousands of people, growing stronger with each victim. The horror of Cell's absorption ability was visceral and disturbing, the bio-android treating humans as nothing more than fuel for his evolution. The Z-Fighters raced to stop Cell before he could absorb the androids. However, Cell managed to absorb Android 17 by ambushing him during a fight with Piccolo. The absorption transformed Cell into his semi-perfect form, dramatically increasing his power and changing his appearance. Semi-perfect Cell was significantly stronger than any of the Z-Fighters, able to defeat Vegeta and the others with relative ease. Cell's arrogance grew with his power, the bio-android believing himself superior to everyone and destined to achieve perfection. Vegeta and Trunks had been training in the hyperbolic time chamber, a dimension where time moved differently, allowing a year of training to pass in just one day of outside time. The chamber existed within Kami's lookout and could only be used for 2 years total per person due to its harsh conditions and the risk of being trapped there if the exit was destroyed. Vegeta and Trunks emerged from the chamber far stronger than before, both having advanced their Super Saiyan forms significantly through the intense training. However, Vegeta made a critical mistake driven by his pride. When he fought Semi-Perfect Cell, Vegeta was strong enough to defeat him. But Vegeta wanted to fight Cell the strongest, believing that only by defeating Perfect Cell could he truly prove his superiority. Vegeta allowed Cell to absorb Android 18 despite Trunks and the others trying to stop him. This decision showed Vegeta's fundamental flaw as a warrior. His pride often overrode his judgment, leading him to make decisions that endangered himself and others for the sake of proving his strength. Cell's transformation into perfect form was dramatic and overwhelming. His appearance became more humanoid and refined, with green skin and black spots covering his body. His power multiplied beyond anyone's expectations, making him stronger than even Super Vegeta. Perfect Cell demonstrated his superiority by easily defeating Vegeta and Trunks, the two Scions who had just emerged from the hyperbolic time chamber believing themselves invincible. Cell's arrogance matched his power, the bio-android declaring himself the perfect being and challenging Earth's defenders to face him in 10 days at a martial arts tournament. Cell's announcement of the Cell Games gave the Z-Fighters time to prepare, but also created worldwide panic. Cell broadcast his challenge globally using television networks, making it clear that he would destroy Earth if no one could defeat him at the tournament. The 10-day period before the Cell Games was filled with desperate training and preparations, each fighter knowing that Cell represented an existential threat to the planet and possibly the universe. Goku and Gohan entered the hyperbolic time chamber to train together, father and son spending a full year inside the chamber while only 1 day passed outside. Goku's approach to training was different from Vegeta's brutal regimen. Rather than constantly pushing to increase power, Goku focused on mastering the Super Saiyan form, making it feel natural and comfortable rather than a desperate power-up. This mastery would allow them to maintain Super Saiyan as their default state, reducing the energy drain and making their full power easily accessible at any moment. During their training, Gohan reached new levels of power that shocked even Goku. The boy's potential, which had been evident since he was young, began manifesting more consistently and powerfully. Goku realized that Gohan had the potential to surpass everyone, including himself, if the boy could be properly motivated to fight seriously. However, Gohan's gentle nature made it difficult for him to tap into his full power without extreme emotional triggers. Goku began planning how to help Gohan access his power during the fight with Cell. The Cell Games arrived with fighters from Earth and beyond gathering to challenge Perfect Cell. The tournament was held in a ring that Cell constructed specifically for this event, a fighting arena in the middle of a rocky wasteland. Cell sat calmly in the ring, confident that no one present could defeat him. The Earth's military attempted to destroy Cell with missiles and weapons, but their attacks were completely ineffective, not even scratching Cell's bioengineered body. Goku fought Cell first, demonstrating mastered Super Saiyan and incredible technique. The battle was intense and technical, both fighters displaying skills and speed far beyond normal comprehension. However, Goku recognized that he could not defeat Cell even at full power. Cell's combination of everyone's abilities and techniques made him too versatile, and his perfect body gave him endurance and power that Goku could not match. Goku surprised everyone by surrendering and nominating Gohan as the next fighter, declaring that his son was the only one who could defeat Cell. Gohan reluctantly entered the ring, not wanting to fight, but unable to refuse with Earth's survival at stake. He fought defensively at first, holding back because he hated violence and did not want to hurt anyone, even a monster like Cell. This frustrated Cell, who wanted Gohan to fight seriously and show his true power. Cell began tormenting Gohan, trying to anger him enough to trigger the boy's hidden potential. When that did not work, Cell created miniature versions of himself called Cell Jars that attacked the other Z fighters, forcing Gohan to watch his friends and family be beaten and tortured. The death of Android 16 finally pushed Gohan over the edge. Android 16, who had befriended Gohan during the days before the Cell games, sacrificed himself trying to protect the boy. Cell crushed Android 16's head, destroying the gentle android who had only wanted to live peacefully and protect nature. This senseless act of cruelty, combined with watching his friend suffer, triggered Gohan's transformation into Super Saiyan 2, a form beyond the standard Super Saiyan that multiplied power even further. Super Saiyan 2 Gohan was absolutely overwhelming. His power doubled the Super Saiyan multiplier, and his personality shifted to become cold and confident rather than gentle and scared. The electrical aura around his body crackled with energy, and his hair stood up even more sharply than standard Super Saiyan. Gohan destroyed all the Cell Jars effortlessly, moving so fast that Cell could barely track him. When Gohan fought Cell directly, he dominated completely, his attacks causing genuine damage to BioAndroid's supposedly perfect body. Cell's regeneration allowed him to recover from most injuries, but Gohan's power was overwhelming his ability to regenerate faster than he was being damaged. In desperation, Cell attempted to self-destruct, inflating his body with energy that would explode with enough force to destroy the entire solar system. Goku, recognizing that there was no way to stop the explosion, used instant transmission to teleport both himself and Cell to King Kai's planet in the other world. The explosion destroyed King Kai's planet and killed Goku, who sacrificed himself to save Earth from Cell's final attack. However, Cell survived the explosion through his Namekian regeneration ability, which allowed him to regenerate his entire body from a single cell as long as his core remained intact. Cell returned to Earth using his own instant transmission ability, which he had copied from Goku. The regeneration had healed all of Cell's injuries and had even made him stronger through the Saiyan ability to grow more powerful after near-death experiences. Cell was now stronger than ever and enraged by his near defeat. Cell immediately killed Future Trunks with an energy blast to the chest, the young man dying before he could react to Cell's return. Vegeta, grief-stricken by his son's death, attacked Cell in a rage but was swatted aside effortlessly. The situation seemed hopeless with Goku dead and Gohan injured from the previous fight. However, Goku's voice reached Gohan from the other world, encouraging his son to finish the battle. Goku explained that only Gohan had the power to defeat Cell, and that Gohan needed to stop holding back his emotions and finish the fight. The final confrontation between Gohan and Cell was a beam struggle, their most powerful attacks colliding in midair as each fighter tried to overcome the other. Cell's Kamehameha wave clashed with Gohan's own Kamehameha, the two energy beams pushing against each other with the fate of Earth hanging in the balance. Cell was stronger initially, his beams slowly pushing back Gohan's attack toward the young Saiyan. However, the spirits of fallen Z fighters lent their energy to Gohan, and Vegeta fired a desperate attack at Cell from behind, momentarily distracting the BioAndroid. In that moment of distraction, Gohan poured all his power into his Kamehameha wave, overwhelming Cell's beam and destroying the BioAndroid completely. Cell's body was completely vaporized by the attack, every cell destroyed simultaneously to prevent any regeneration. The threat was finally ended, and Earth was saved by Gohan's hidden power that had finally been fully unleashed. However, the victory came at the cost of Goku's life. The hero choosing to remain dead rather than be wished back, believing his presence attracted too many threats to Earth. 7 years of peace followed Cell's defeat. Gohan stopped training and focused on his studies, becoming the scholar his mother had always wanted him to be. He attended high school and eventually university, pursuing academic achievements rather than martial arts. Vegeta settled into family life with Bulma, and they had a son named Trunks. This Trunks was different from future Trunks, growing up in a peaceful timeline where the android threat had been prevented. Goten, Goku's second son with Chi-Chi, was born shortly before Goku's death and grew up without knowing his father. The peace was broken by the awakening of Majin Buu, an ancient magical entity that had been sealed away millions of years ago. Buu was created by a dark wizard named Bibidi to be the ultimate weapon of destruction. Buu had rampaged across the universe, destroying hundreds of planets and killing millions before being sealed away by the Supreme Kai. Bibidi was killed before he could release Buu again, and the sealed ball containing Buu was hidden on Earth, waiting dormant for centuries until circumstances would lead to its opening. Babidi, the son of Bibidi, came to Earth searching for the sealed Buu. Babidi was a wizard who specialized in mind control, able to take control of individuals with evil in their hearts and amplify their power in exchange for their servitude. Babidi recruited several powerful fighters through mind control, using them to collect energy that would be needed to break Buu's seal. The energy came from battles, with stronger fights producing more energy that could be harvested for Babidi's purposes. Vegeta allowed himself to be controlled by Babidi voluntarily, seeking the power boost that came with the mind control while believing he was strong-willed enough to resist Babidi's commands. The evil influence of the mind control brought out Vegeta's old personality, the cruel and proud Scion Prince who cared only for battle and proving his superiority. Under Babidi's influence, Vegeta attacked the World Martial Arts Tournament where the Z fighters had gathered, killing spectators and forcing Goku to fight him to prevent more deaths. The battle between Goku and Vegeta produced tremendous energy that was harvested by Babidi's magic. This energy was enough to break the seal on Majin Buu, releasing the ancient terror from his imprisonment. Buu emerged from his ball as a strange pink creature that looked nothing like the terrifying monster everyone expected. Majin Buu was short and chubby with a childlike personality, seeming more interested in candy and fun than in destruction and killing. However, this innocent appearance had incredible power that surpassed even Cell at his peak. Majin Buu's abilities were bizarre and versatile, far beyond what the Z fighters had encountered before. He could turn people into candy or other food items with his antenna beam, then eat them to absorb their power. His body was extremely malleable, allowing him to stretch, reshape, and regenerate from virtually any injury. Physical attacks passed through him without causing damage, and energy attacks were absorbed and negated. His magical nature made him fundamentally different from previous opponents who relied on ki and physical power. Buu's innocence was corrupted by Babidi's influence, the wizard commanding Buu to destroy cities and kill people. Buu complied because he thought it was fun, treating mass murder as a game without understanding the consequences of his actions. However, Buu's personality was inconsistent, sometimes sparing people on whims or becoming friends with individuals who showed him kindness. This unpredictability made Buu both dangerous and occasionally sympathetic, a monster created rather than born evil. Goku revealed a new transformation during the fight with Majin Buu, Super Saiyan 3, which he had developed while training in the other world. Super Saiyan 3 multiplied power 4 times beyond Super Saiyan 2, making an incredibly powerful form. The transformation was dramatic, with Goku's hair growing extremely long and his eyebrows disappearing completely. The power was immense, but Super Saiyan 3 drained energy extremely quickly, making it difficult to maintain for more than a few minutes in a living body. Despite Super Saiyan 3's power, Goku could not defeat Majin Buu before his time on Earth expired. Goku had been granted 1 day to return to Earth for the World Martial Arts Tournament, and when that time ran out, he was pulled back to the other world. Before leaving, Goku taught Goten and Trunks a fusion technique, a method of combining two fighters into a single being with power far exceeding the sum of its parts. The boys would need to master fusion to create a warrior capable of defeating Majin Buu. The fusion technique required two fighters of similar size and power to perform a specific dance in perfect synchronization. If performed correctly, the two would merge into a single being for 30 minutes. The fused warrior would possess the memories, skills, and techniques of both component fighters, while having power that was multiplied rather than simply added together. However, if the fusion dance was performed incorrectly, the result would be a weak or deformed fusion that was useless in combat. Vegeta's sacrifice against Majin Buu demonstrated the prince's character development over the series. Realizing that Buu could not be defeated through normal means, Vegeta hugged his son Trunks for the first time and apologized to him for being a poor father. He then asked Piccolo to take the boys to safety while he faced Buu alone. Vegeta used a suicidal technique that converted all his life energy into a massive explosion, intending to destroy Buu completely with his own death. The explosion was tremendous, but Buu's regeneration allowed him to survive by reconstructing himself from scattered pieces, making Vegeta's sacrifice seemingly meaningless. However, Vegeta's sacrifice bought time for Goten and Trunks to train and master the fusion technique. After many failed attempts and embarrassing mishaps, the boys finally perfected the fusion dance and became Gotenks, a cocky and powerful warrior who combined their strengths. Gotenks achieved Super Saiyan 3, becoming the first fused warrior to reach that level of transformation. His power rivaled Majin Buu's, creating hope that the threat could finally be stopped. The situation complicated when Majin Buu split into two separate entities. The evil within Buu separated from the innocent side, creating a new being called Evil Buu who was thin, gray, and purely malevolent. Evil Buu fought and absorbed the fat Majin Buu, becoming Super Buu, a more intelligent and dangerous version. Super Buu was stronger, smarter, and crueler than the original Majin Buu, approaching combat strategically rather than playfully. Super Buu sought out strong opponents to fight, specifically demanding to battle Gotenks. The fusion warrior fought Super Buu impressively, their battle being relatively even and demonstrating Gotenks' incredible power. However, Gotenks' cockiness led him to waste time showing off rather than finishing the fight quickly. When the 30-minute fusion time limit expired, Goten and Trunks separated, leaving them vulnerable to Super Buu's retaliation. Gohan, who had been training in the other world with the Supreme Kai, returned to Earth far stronger than ever before. The Supreme Kai had performed a ritual that unlocked all of Gohan's potential, making him stronger than even Super Saiyan 3, without needing to transform. This mystic or ultimate Gohan form accessed all of Gohan's power simultaneously, giving him incredible strength while appearing to be in his normal state. Gohan dominated Super Buu completely, the absorbed power of the Fat Buu not being enough to match Gohan's unlocked potential. Super Buu responded by absorbing Gotenks and Piccolo, stealing their power and abilities to add to his own. The absorption made Super Buu dramatically stronger and smarter, allowing him to overpower even Ultimate Gohan. Buu's absorption ability made him nearly impossible to defeat permanently, as he could steal the power of his strongest opponents and use it against their allies. This created a desperate situation where each victory against Buu might make him stronger rather than weaker. Goku and Vegeta fused using Patera earrings provided by the Supreme Kai, creating Vegeto, the most powerful warrior ever seen in the universe. Patera fusion was superior to the fusion dance, creating stronger results and lasting permanently rather than for just 30 minutes. Vegeto dominated Super Buu effortlessly even when Buu had absorbed Gohan, demonstrating that the Patera fusion multiplied power to incredible levels. Vegeto's strength was so overwhelming that he could toy with Super Buu without any danger to himself. However, Vegeto allowed himself to be absorbed by Buu intentionally, maintaining a barrier to avoid being fully assimilated. Inside Buu's body, Vegeto separated back into Goku and Vegeta, and they rescued the people Buu had absorbed. Removing the absorbed fighters from Buu's body transformed him back into his original form, Kid Buu, the pure and ancient version created by Bibidi millions of years ago. Kid Buu was smaller and less muscular than Super Buu, but far more dangerous because he was completely insane and purely evil. There was no reasoning with Kid Buu, no mercy or hesitation in his actions. He destroyed planets for fun, killed everyone he encountered without thought, and possessed power that matched or exceeded the Super Buu that had absorbed others. Kid Buu immediately destroyed Earth with a massive energy ball, killing everyone except Goku, Vegeta, and a few others who were transported away by the Supreme Kai at the last moment. The final battle with Kid Buu took place on the Supreme Kai's planet, one of the last places of light and life in the universe. Goku and Vegeta fought Kid Buu together, with Goku using Super Saiyan 3 to match the demon's power. However, Super Saiyan 3 drained Goku's energy too quickly, and he could not maintain the form long enough to defeat Buu. Vegeta fought Kid Buu in his Super Saiyan 2 form, buying time for Goku to recover his energy, but he was badly beaten in the process. The final solution came from the Spirit Bomb, the technique King Kai had taught Goku decades ago. Goku gathered energy from everyone on Earth who had been revived using the Namekian Dragon Balls, and from everyone who had died throughout the universe because of Buu. People raised their hands and gave their energy willingly, understanding that this was the last chance to defeat the ancient evil. The energy gathered into a massive sphere that contained the life force of billions of beings across the universe. Goku threw the Spirit Bomb at Kid Buu, but the demon was strong enough to push it back initially. Goku did not have enough energy left to push the Spirit Bomb forward, and it seemed like even this ultimate attack would fail. Vegeta called out to Den to use a last wish on the Namekian Dragon Balls to restore Goku to full power. The wish was granted, instantly restoring all of Goku's energy, allowing him to push the Spirit Bomb with his full strength. The Spirit Bomb overwhelmed Kid Buu completely, destroying him at the molecular level and ensuring he could not regenerate. As Buu was destroyed, Goku asked the universe to let Buu be reincarnated as a good person who could find happiness and friends. The ancient evil was finally ended, and the universe was safe from his destruction. Earth was restored using the Dragon Balls, and everyone who had died was brought back to life with no memory of the recent catastrophe. Peace returned to Earth once more, this time lasting longer than previous intervals. The Z Fighters went back to their normal lives, some focusing on family, and others continuing to train. Goku remained dedicated to martial arts, constantly seeking new ways to grow stronger and finding joy in the simple act of training. Vegeta continued his own training, his rivalry with Goku pushing him to never stop improving. The threat of Majin Buu had been the greatest challenge they had faced, but it had also proven that working together and pushing beyond limits could overcome even the most impossible odds. The concept of transformation was central to understanding how warriors in Dragon Ball Z achieved greater power. The Super Saiyan transformation was the most iconic, marking a multiplication of base power by 50 times. This golden-haired form had once been legendary, but became almost standard for Saiyan warriors by the series' end. The transformation required intense emotion to trigger initially, usually rage or grief, but could be mastered through training to become accessible at will without emotional triggers. Super Saiyan 2 evolved from the standard Super Saiyan form, doubling the power multiplier to 100 times base power. The form was characterized by more rigid hair, electrical sparks in the aura, and a sharper, more aggressive fighting style. Achieving Super Saiyan 2 required pushing beyond the limits of standard Super Saiyan through training or extreme emotional circumstances. Gohan was the first to achieve this form during his fight with Cell, and eventually Goku and Vegeta also mastered it through dedicated training. Super Saiyan 3 pushed even further, quadrupling Super Saiyan 2's power for a multiplier of 400 times base strength. The transformation was dramatic, with hair growing extremely long and eyebrows disappearing. However, Super Saiyan 3 came with severe drawbacks. The energy consumption was enormous, limiting how long the form could be maintained, especially in a living body. The strain on the user's body was intense, making it impractical for extended battles despite its incredible power. The mastery of these transformations was as important as achieving them initially. Goku's training philosophy emphasized making transformations feel natural rather than forced, reducing energy drain, and making full power easily accessible. By treating Super Saiyan as a default state rather than a desperate power-up, warriors could fight at enhanced levels without the exhaustion that came from constantly transforming and powering up. This mastery gave advantages in stamina and consistent power output during prolonged battles. The fusion technique represented another way to access greater power, combining two warriors into a single being. The fusion dance required precise movements and perfect synchronization between fighters of similar power and size. When performed correctly, the result was a warrior with multiplied power who possessed the skills and techniques of both component fighters. The fusion lasted 30 minutes before automatically separating back into the original two people. Pod-era fusion used magical earrings to combine two warriors, creating even greater results than the fusion dance. The process was simpler, requiring only that two people each wear one earring on opposite ears. The earrings would draw them together and merge them into a single being with incredible power. Pod-era fusion was originally permanent, making it a serious commitment that could not be undone. However, the fusion between Goku and Vegeta eventually separated due to the unusual environment inside Majin Buu's body. The concept of ki control was fundamental to all fighting techniques in Dragon Ball Z. Warriors learned to sense ki energy in others, allowing them to detect opponents' locations and gauge their strength. Suppressing ki could hide one's presence or intentions, while flaring ki could intimidate enemies or signal allies. Precise ki control enabled flight, energy attacks, and enhanced physical abilities that made the fighters seem superhuman by normal standards. Energy attacks came in many forms, from simple ki blasts to elaborate signature techniques unique to individual fighters. The Kamehameha was Goku's signature move, a powerful energy wave fired from cupped hands after concentrating ki. The Gallic Gun was Vegeta's equivalent attack, similar in function, but different in execution and color. Piccolo's Special Beam Cannon was a piercing attack that could punch through opponents despite energy barriers. Each fighter developed techniques that suited their personality and fighting style. The Final Flash was one of Vegeta's most powerful techniques, requiring time to charge but delivering devastating results. Big Bang Attack was his quick-firing signature move, concentrated energy shot from one hand. Destructo Disc, created by Krillin, could cut through nearly anything regardless of the target's power level. Solar Flare blinded opponents with intense light, creating openings for escape or counterattack. The variety of techniques available gave each fighter unique capabilities beyond just raw power. Training methods varied among the Z fighters, but all required dedication and pushing beyond comfortable limits. Weighted clothing was used to increase the difficulty of normal movements, making fighters faster and stronger when the weights were removed. Gravity training, pioneered by Goku during his journey to Namek, subjected the body to forces many times stronger than Earth's gravity, forcing rapid adaptation and strength gains. The hyperbolic time chamber provided a year of training time in a single day, allowing intensive preparation for major threats. Sparring with strong opponents was perhaps the most effective training method, forcing fighters to adapt to different styles and power levels. Goku particularly valued training against those stronger than himself, seeing each superior opponent as an opportunity to grow rather than an insurmountable obstacle. This mindset allowed him to continue improving throughout his life, always seeking challenges that would push him beyond his current capabilities. Mental training and meditation were also important aspects of martial arts in Dragon Ball Z. Clearing the mind allowed better ki control and more efficient use of power. Understanding oneself and one's motivations helped fighters access hidden reserves of strength during critical moments. Piccolo particularly emphasized the mental aspect of combat, spending time in meditation to maintain his focus and enhance his connection to his ki. The afterlife in Dragon Ball Z was depicted as a real place with physical form rather than abstract spiritual existence. Dead warriors retained their bodies if they were judged to be good people, allowing them to continue training and interacting physically in the afterlife. King Yemma judged all souls, determining whether they kept their bodies or cleansed and reincarnated. Heaven was a place of peace and happiness, while hell was filled with machines that processed wicked souls through purifying torment. The Snake-Way connection between the living world and King Kai's planet provided a path for exceptional souls to reach higher levels of the afterlife. The journey along Snake-Way took months even for fast runners, the serpentine path stretching across impossible distances. King Kai's planet existed at the end of Snake-Way, a tiny world with extreme gravity where the most dedicated warriors could train under the deity's instruction. King Kai himself was an important figure in the cosmic hierarchy, overseeing the North Quadrant of the universe. He was wise and powerful, possessing techniques and knowledge far beyond what was available on Earth. His teachings emphasized not just physical strength, but also wisdom and understanding. King Kai's sense of humor was terrible, loving bad puns and jokes, but his instruction was invaluable for those who sought to defend the universe against major threats. The Supreme Kais were even higher in the divine hierarchy than King Kai, serving as creator gods who nurtured life throughout the universe. The Supreme Kai of the East was the last remaining Supreme Kai after Majin Buu's ancient rampage killed the others. He was young and inexperienced for a deity, having taken on responsibilities far greater than he was prepared for when the other Supreme Kais died. Despite his limitations, he was genuinely concerned about protecting mortal life and worked to stop Majin Buu's resurrection. The Elder Kai was an ancient Supreme Kai who had been sealed in a sword for millions of years. He was eventually freed by Gohan and provided crucial assistance during the Majin Buu crisis. Elder Kai's knowledge of ancient techniques and rituals proved essential, particularly his ability to unlock Gohan's hidden potential. His personality was cranky and perverted, but his wisdom and power were genuine and invaluable during desperate times. The gods of destruction existed as counterparts to the Supreme Kais, beings whose purpose was to destroy planets and civilizations to maintain balance in the universe. While Supreme Kais created and nurtured life, gods of destruction eliminated what was no longer needed or had become corrupt. This balance between creation and destruction was essential for the universe's health, preventing overpopulation and stagnation while allowing new life and civilizations to emerge. Beerus was the god of destruction for Universe 7, the universe where Earth existed. He possessed power that dwarfed even the strongest warriors from Dragon Ball Z, able to destroy planets with casual gestures. Beerus slept for decades at a time, waking occasionally to destroy planets based on criteria only he fully understood. His attendant, which was even more powerful, an angel who served as Beerus's martial arts teacher and assistant. The multiverse revealed by these higher deities showed that Universe 7 was only one of 12 universes, each with its own Supreme Kais and gods of destruction. Some universes had higher average mortal levels, meaning their civilizations were more advanced or enlightened. Universe 7 was considered one of the lower-ranked universes, with room for significant improvement in the quality and conduct of its mortal inhabitants. The Dragon Ball's power and limitations were important to understanding their role in the story. Shenron, Earth's dragon, could grant wishes but only within his power limits. He could not kill beings stronger than his creator Kami, or later Den, who recreated him. He could resurrect people who had died, but only if they had not already been brought back once before, except for deaths at the hands of specific villains where group resurrections were allowed. Each person could only be revived once by Earth's Dragon Balls, preventing repeated resurrections. The Namekian Dragon Balls, created by Grand Elder Guru, were more powerful than Earth's version. Porunga could grant 3 wishes instead of 1, and could resurrect the same person multiple times. However, Porunga could only bring back 1 person per wish, whereas Shenron could revive multiple people simultaneously if they died in related incidents. The differences between the 2 sets of Dragon Balls provided strategic options when dealing with mass casualties from major battles. Bulma's role as a technological genius behind much of the Z Fighter's equipment was crucial throughout the series. She created communication devices, spaceships, and a dragon radar that made finding Dragon Balls practical. Without Bulma's inventions, many of the adventures would have been impossible. Her relationship with Vegeta developed slowly over years, the proud scion prince gradually opening up to human emotions and family life through her influence. Chi-Chi's concern for her son's education created ongoing conflict with the warrior's lifestyle. She wanted Gohan and later Goten to become scholars rather than fighters, fearing for their safety and hoping they would have normal lives. Her protective instincts were understandable given how many times her family faced life-threatening danger. However, circumstances repeatedly forced her children into combat roles despite her wishes, as their power was necessary to protect Earth. Master Roshi, despite being surpassed in power by his students, remained important as a teacher and mentor. His wisdom about martial arts philosophy and life provided guidance that pure strength could not match. He had taught multiple generations of fighters, including Goku, Krillin, and Yamcha, laying foundations that allowed them to achieve incredible heights. His perverted antics provided comic relief, but his genuine care for his students was always evident. Krillin represented the peak of human potential, without supernatural heritage or transformations. Despite being weaker than the Scions and other non-human fighters, Krillin continued participating in battles and training because of his loyalty to his friends and his commitment to protecting Earth. His bravery in facing opponents far stronger than himself demonstrated that courage mattered more than power level. His eventual marriage to Android 18 showed that even former enemies could find redemption and love. Yamcha's declining role in major battles as the threats escalated showed the harsh reality that some warriors simply reached their limits. Despite his early prominence and skill, Yamcha could not keep up with Scions and cosmic threats. His continued support from the sidelines and his willingness to help, however, he could demonstrate that even those who could not fight in the main battles still had value and purpose. Tien's dedication to martial arts never wavered even as he was surpassed by others. His three eyes gave him unique abilities in perceiving and analyzing ki. His signature technique, the Tri-Beam, could damage opponents far stronger than himself by concentrating all his life energy into a single attack. Tien's willingness to risk his life to slow down major threats, even knowing he could not win, showed the warrior spirit that defined Earth's defenders. Piccolo's evolution from villain to hero to mentor was one of the series' most satisfying character arcs. Born as the reincarnation of evil, Piccolo chose his own path and became one of Earth's most reliable defenders. His bond with Gohan influenced both of them, teaching Piccolo about compassion, while giving Gohan a second father figure who understood his reluctance to fight. Piccolo's intelligence and strategic thinking often provided crucial insights during battles where raw power was insufficient. Android 18's transformation from enemy to ally to family member showed that redemption was possible even for those created to kill. Her initial coldness melted over time, particularly after meeting Krillin and eventually marrying him. Her strength remained far above most of Earth's defenders, and her willingness to fight when needed made her a valuable addition to the team. Her relationship with her brother Android 17 was complicated but genuine, the siblings caring for each other despite their artificial origins. Future Trunks represented hope from despair, a warrior from a dark timeline who refused to give up despite impossible odds. His time travel to warn about the androids changed one timeline, even though it could not save his own. Future Trunks' experiences made him more serious and hardened than the present timeline's Trunks, having witnessed the death of all Earth's defenders and lived in a world terrorized by unstoppable enemies. His determination to prevent his timeline's fate from befalling others demonstrated selfless heroism. Young Trunks, born in the main timeline, grew up privileged and confident, never experiencing the hardships his future counterpart endured. The differences between the two versions of Trunks showed how circumstances shaped personality and character. Young Trunks was cocky and playful, traits that sometimes cause problems during serious battles. However, his natural talent and hybrid Scion biology gave him tremendous potential that would develop as he matured. Goten, Goku's second son, was born with the same potential as Gohan, but without the pressure to become Earth's defender. He achieved Super Saiyan at an extremely young age, younger than any other Saiyan in history, suggesting that the transformation was becoming easier for each generation. Goten's friendship with Trunks created a powerful partnership, the two boys achieving fusion and becoming formidable warriors despite their youth. The relationship between Goku and Chi-Chi was complicated by Goku's dedication to training and his naivety about family life. Chi-Chi loved Goku but was frequently frustrated by his priorities and his lack of understanding about normal family dynamics. Goku loved his family in his own way but struggled to express it through conventional means, showing his affection through protection and providing for them rather than through emotional availability or domestic participation. The relationship between Vegeta and Bulma was even more unlikely than Goku and Chi-Chi's marriage. Vegeta initially had no interest in relationships or family, focused entirely on surpassing Goku and proving his superiority. Bulma's persistence and Vegeta's gradual emotional development over years eventually created genuine affection between them. Vegeta's growth from cold warrior to devoted family man was subtle but real, shown through his protectiveness toward his family and his eventual willingness to sacrifice himself for others. Gohan's journey from reluctant fighter to scholar was influenced heavily by his mother's wishes and his own gentle nature. Unlike his father, Gohan did not love fighting for its own sake and preferred academic pursuits. However, his power exceeded even Goku's when properly motivated, making him Earth's strongest offender during the Cell Saga. Gohan's eventual choice to focus on family and scholarship rather than training showed that being a hero did not require dedicating one's entire life to combat. The theme of pushing beyond limits ran throughout Dragon Ball Z, with characters constantly achieving new transformations and power levels that seemed impossible. What appeared to be absolute ceilings were repeatedly shattered through training, emotion, or desperation. The series suggested that true limits were mental rather than physical, that warriors could always grow stronger if they refused to accept limitations and continued striving for improvement. Friendship and bond between warriors were portrayed as sources of strength rather than weakness. The Z Fighters worked together despite their different personalities and backgrounds, unified by their commitment to protecting Earth. The willingness to sacrifice for friends and family provided motivation that pure power could not match. Even villains like Vegeta and Piccolo were eventually brought into the circle of friendship, their redemption showing that past actions did not permanently define someone's nature. The value of training and hard work was emphasized throughout the series. While natural talent mattered, dedication to improvement mattered more. Goku surpassed many naturally stronger opponents through constant training and seeking out challenges. His pure love of martial arts and self-improvement drove him to heights that those who relied only on natural ability could never reach. Even when outmatched, the Z Fighters continued training, knowing that today's impossible opponent could become tomorrow's equal through sufficient dedication. The acceptance of death is not permanent in this universe changed how characters approach sacrifice and risk. Knowing that the Dragon Balls could potentially revive them made warriors more willing to give their lives if necessary. However, this did not cheapen death's emotional impact, as characters still grieved losses and understood that resurrection was not guaranteed. The temporary nature of death allowed for heroic sacrifices, while also permitting emotional reunions that would be impossible in worlds where death was truly final. The concept of fighting spirit and never giving up was central to many victories throughout the series. Warriors who should have been outmatched found ways to win through sheer determination and refusal to surrender. Emotional resolve allowed characters to push past physical limits and access hidden reserves of power. The willingness to continue fighting even when defeat seemed certain often turned the tide of battles, showing that mental strength was as important as physical power. Rivalry as a motivating force was embodied in the relationship between Goku and Vegeta. Their competitive dynamic pushed both to constantly improve, neither willing to let the other remain ahead for long. What began as bitter enmity evolved into mutual respect and even friendship, though Vegeta would rarely admit the latter. Their rivalry benefited both warriors and by extension Earth itself, as their constant competition kept them growing stronger and prepared for any threat. The idea that strength was not inherently good or evil appeared repeatedly through characters who possessed great power, but used it for different purposes. Frieza and Cell were incredibly strong but purely evil, using their power to dominate and destroy. Goku and Gohan were equally strong, but used their power to protect rather than conquer. The series suggested that power was neutral, a tool that could be used for good or evil depending on the wielder's character and choices. The reluctant hero archetype was explored through Gohan, who possessed the greatest potential of any character but did not want to fight. His gentle nature made him prefer peace, but circumstances repeatedly forced him into combat roles. His ultimate power emerged only when protecting others, showing that strength derived from compassion could exceed strength derived from pride or rage. Gohan's story suggested that heroism was about rising to meet challenges despite preferences, doing what was necessary even when it was not desired. The concept of destiny versus choice was present throughout the series. Prophecies and legends foretold certain events like the Super Saiyan transformation, suggesting predetermined fate. However, characters constantly made choices that defied expectations and changed outcomes. Vegeta chose to become good despite his evil upbringing. Piccolo chose heroism despite being born from evil. These choices demonstrated that while destiny might suggest certain paths, individuals ultimately determine their own fates through their decisions and actions. The importance of family, both blood and chosen, provided emotional foundation throughout the series. Goku's Earth family gave him purpose beyond fighting. Gohan's love for his family motivated his greatest transformations. Vegeta's gradual acceptance of family life showed his emotional growth. The Z fighters became family to each other through shared struggles, creating bonds as strong as biological relationships. These connections provided reasons to fight and protect that pure power could not create. Redemption was possible for nearly any character who genuinely sought it. Vegeta went from murdering villain to devoted family man and Earth's secondary defender. Piccolo transformed from Demon King Spawn to wise mentor and hero. Android 18 became a wife, mother, an occasional ally despite being created to kill Goku. These redemption arcs showed that past actions did not permanently define someone, that change was possible for those who genuinely wanted to become better. The balance between confidence and arrogance was a lesson many characters learned painfully. Vegeta's excessive pride led to terrible decisions like allowing Cell to achieve perfection. Gotank's cockiness wasted opportunities to defeat Majin Buu. However, appropriate confidence was necessary for victory, believing in one's abilities while respecting opponents' strength. Finding the balance between these extremes separated wise warriors from foolish ones. The generational passage of responsibility appeared in how younger fighters eventually surpassed their mentors. Gohan exceeded Goku during the Cell Saga. Goten and Trunks achieved Super Saiyan at younger ages than previous generations. This progression suggested that each generation built upon the previous one's achievements, standing on the shoulders of those who came before to reach new heights. The older generation's roles shifted from primary defenders to teachers and supporters. Sacrifice for the greater good was a recurring theme, with characters giving up their lives, wishes, or personal desires for others' benefit. Goku remained dead for 7 years, believing his absence would protect Earth. Vegeta sacrificed himself trying to stop Majin Buu. Piccolo died protecting Gohan. These sacrifices showed that heroism sometimes required giving up everything for others' survival and safety, placing others' well-being above personal interests. The joy of combat as pure competition appeared primarily through Goku's character. He loved fighting not for dominance or violence, but for the challenge and the opportunity to test himself. This pure love of martial arts drove him to spare dangerous enemies like Vegeta and Frieza, wanting future opportunities to fight them again at full strength. While this sometimes endangered others, it also reflected Goku's belief that fighting could bring out the best in people and create bonds of respect between warriors. As consciousness fades toward rest, we can reflect on the lessons embedded in these stories of warriors pushing beyond their limits. The universe of Dragon Ball Z showed us that strength came not just from power, but from bond with others, from refusing to give up despite impossible odds, from constantly seeking improvement rather than accepting limitations. These themes resonated beyond the fantastic battles and transformations, speaking to universal human experiences of growth, friendship, and perseverance. Sleep comes gently now, carrying us away from the battlefields and training grounds where warriors push themselves beyond comprehension. The techniques and transformations, the sacrifices and victories, all fade into peaceful dreams. Tomorrow brings new challenges, but tonight brings only rest, knowing that the spirit of determination and friendship embodied in these stories continues to inspire. Good night to Goku, forever training and seeking stronger opponents. Good night to Vegeta, proud and determined to surpass all limits. Good night to Gohan, gentle scholar and hidden power. Good night to all the Z fighters who defended Earth again and again. Good night to the bonds of friendship that proved stronger than any enemy. Good night to the transformations and techniques that push beyond imagination. Rest now in the knowledge that limits exist to be surpassed, that friendship gives strength beyond mere power, that determination can overcome impossible odds. Let these stories fade into comfortable dreams, the key energy and transformations becoming peaceful thoughts that guide toward deep sleep. The universe of Dragon Ball Z continues somewhere in imagination, warriors always training, always growing, always ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The golden glow of Super Saiyan fades to gentle darkness. The energy blasts and dramatic battles quiet into peaceful silence. The determination to push beyond limits transforms into determination to rest completely. Sleep comes, deep and peaceful, as the stories of Earth's defenders fade into the background of consciousness. Always there, but no longer demanding attention. Good night.